Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about the sequel to the game that started many people's careers. A game about amnesia and shit going south. And it seems appropriate to talk about a horror game in the spooky season, or more like a few days after the spooky season. Amnesia Rebirth is the sequel to the acclaimed horror game released in 2010, Amnesia the Doctor's Hint. It's not connected to it in any way though. It's a survival horror game with puzzles and no combat, and it's played from the first person perspective, which is par for the course for frictional games at this point. It follows Tassie Trianon, a French lady going on an expedition to a gold mine located in Sudan in the year 1938, leaving her daughter in France. On the way, the plane they're flying in crashes as she sees images of another more ruined world. So the plane crashes in the middle of the desert, and you wake up in the wrecked plane and you drink what I might say is the amnesia potion, or just medicine. And then you get up to try to find the others who all supposedly have gone to a nearby cave. So you step into the desert. Moving through the desert under the sun will burn you, so you have to move in the shade made by the sand dunes. And I really appreciate this sort of design. Because to steer you on the right path without feeling handholdy, there needs to be a clue. The shade is your clue here. So you stumble into the cave seeing that the crew had already left. And there are a few dead members here. So you descend to the lower parts of the cave looking for your husband,
Salim!
who disappeared with the rest of the crew. And the spooky parts begin here. So before we go on, let's get a big thing out of the way. Is the game scary? Yes it is. To me at least. Since I'm as big a pussy as you can get when it comes to horror games. Back when I was 13 and FNAF 4 released, I remember watching a playthrough of it and not leaving my parents' room for the next several days. So I'm not the best person to talk about the horror aspect. But nonetheless, the game is scary. The darkness feels real dark, the little scares get me, like this brick falling from the ceiling. And the game has this cheap thing where it would flash an image when you stay too long in the dark. The game's monster, the ghoul, or more like the harvester, is pretty bland. It's essentially a Wendigo but with different conditions to the transformation. When they first appear, it kinda got me. Although I still don't like this sort of horror game, where there is no combat. It would be a lot scarier if I had just enough of a fighting chance to actually confront these monsters. The game still sports that amnesia gameplay of puzzle solving, carrying items and interacting with the environment, which sometimes is boring and sometimes enhances the scares. For example, in the beginning you stumble across this place. It's a fort. So in the second building there is a puzzle that is essentially, I need ingredients to make a tank shell. So you look for ingredients. Okay, so what do I need? I need sulfur, coal and saltpeter. Coal is simple, you just need to grind some in the grinder, that is it. The sulfur is in a medicine cabinet deeper in the building where you'll see some dead soldiers who kill themselves. Cool. Now the saltpeter. So my first thought is that saltpeter sometimes appears on walls. So I blew up this grenade which broke a part of the wall. So I was like, what if I scrape some off of this? Not gonna happen. Then I was like, what if I grind some off the wall? To no avail. And it was like this for the next 45 minutes. So apparently I overcomplicated that. I should have gone to the other building to get a saltpeter because I recalled that there was something like Quartermaster's store in the other building, which never came up because of the good example of gameplay enhancing the horror aspect. So the first building in the fort is here. When you enter the building you hear the doctor that spoke earlier on the radio. So now you need to make your way to the radio. On the way, you start seeing a figure run in certain places and seeing some messed up shit along the way, including this room full of dead soldiers who kill themselves after drawing straws. And memories start to come back to you. Memories that you came here along with 2 other crew members. So you find the radio after much tiresome work. And to get out, you have to move these bags, and this happens. I just really love this moment. I love how the game times it as you completely move the first bag. I love how it builds it up through these small moments, and I love how they place this hanged man right here to startle you. It's a moment boosted by the main gameplay mechanic of moving everything one by one. Now, after all this happened, why would I want to come back here? I wouldn't. Which is kinda good, since I would feel a bit afraid to get back in there. As you play, your main goal will probably be to leave the area. Along the way you'll be scouring for light sources such as matches and oil for the lantern, but mainly matches, cause the lantern is pretty stupid. You look for these items by moving different objects similar to the original Amnesia, and you use them to light the dark area so that Tassie doesn't get afraid. The lighting in the game can be done through 2 items in the game, of course not mentioning the natural lighting in different areas. Either you use a match or a lantern. Matches are good and common enough. You have to take breaks when moving though, or the matches will blow out, which will waste an important resource. They can light candles and be used in a few puzzles, or more like one. So the matches are good anyway. The lantern on the other hand is garbage. It's like I'm not even putting oil in this shit. You use it, it glows worse than the matches, and puff, it's gone. I remember just using this when I felt like I was wasting matches. But just why though? The sound design is pretty good. The areas have this ambience to them that fills the atmosphere. And when Tassie gets scared, she makes this sound. And it feels like it's seeping into your ears. The monster sounds good as well, with this sound that gets louder and louder as it gets closer to you. It's really effective, especially for a coward like me. The voice acting is good. Most of the characters sound believable, and some stand out. Tassie herself sounds pretty good, although the goddess character, which we will talk about a bit later, sounds very generic. She doesn't sound bad, but she talks in a very condescending way, which is within character by the way. It's just, I don't know how to feel about it. The graphics are a huge leap from the original Amnesia. There is good lighting, detailed environments, and of course actually human characters. They look pretty good for the game. Although I would say that the game looks a lot more like Soma than it looks like Amnesia, which might not be a bad thing, cause back when I played Amnesia I felt like a lot of the early environments felt kinda lacking, while Soma had the added benefit of being located in the bottom of the ocean, one of my scariest places on earth. I do appreciate the Arabic sort of aesthetic earlier in the game, cause I feel like it's very underused in video games, with many of them having Egypt as a location, but nowhere else. But that quickly fades off to a more Lovecraftian, everything is green sort of vibe, which I somewhat like, but come on. Couldn't you have kept the Arabic aesthetic even for the other world? Oh yeah, by the way, there is another world. Earlier in the game you notice the amulet on your wrist, glowing green, and it appears like it acts as some sort of compass, giving you the direction to a nearby rift, which would take you to either the other world or a plot convenient location. It sort of becomes just a dice roll seeing where this will take you at this point in the game. The game functioned well enough for the most part. There was this glitch that logged the game out and I had to reload the save file. But imagine if you had no other saves, since the only way to save is to exit the game. It was kinda stupid. So now I'll be talking about the game's story, and it's very spoiler heavy, so if you wanna play this game, skip to here. So in the beginning, it's revealed that Tassie is pregnant, and that's not much of a spoiler, cause that's like within the first hour and a half. What's not revealed is that her daughter Elise is actually dead, due to an illness and not a baby at all. And the baby in Tassie has the same illness as Elise. And the only way she can be saved is through the goddess. And the only way she can be saved is by the goddess. And turns out that the goddess wants the baby in Tassie because she always wanted a child, and that she's immortal due to a material called vitae that is extracted, I guess, from the human suffering. So the goddess is the one who probably caused the plane to crash so that the crew is put into a dire situation. So the goddess approaches, saying that she will only help them if Tassie comes with her till she gives birth. She refuses, and the goddess tells them to drink from a fountain that will make them go through the desert with no problem. But the fountain curses them, and they start to become monsters. Harvesters specifically. And I love the hints to that. And the reveal. First, there was this scene where Tassie looks at the fountain and says,
I'm just not thirsty.
And the other is a crew member calling Tassie a bitch, which to me was so uncalled for until the reveal. And this was the reveal.
How can you live?
It's great in what was the scariest section to me. So after a while you get to the doctor and bam, your water broke. It's like accelerated pregnancy for some reason, and so the doctor helps, but he betrays you and takes the baby to the goddess. You kill him and now you get one of 3 endings. One is the so-called secret ending, which is bullshit cause this was the second most obvious one, where you kill the goddess and die with your daughter, but you end the suffering of all the people you saw in this hellscape, including the other crew members. It's the ending I went with, and it was the only way where the goddess can be punished for the horrors she commits. The second is give her the kid and be turned into a monster, making sure that the kid lives an eternal life in a hellscape with that bitch as the only person she'll ever know. And the last is take the kid and get back to France, which is not very good, cause it's still France. And I do believe this one depends on how many times did you die in this game. Or not, I don't know. I like these endings, cause there is no really good one. They're all going to give you a sort of bad feeling inside. I would have rather the happy ending, but still, it's pretty good. Before the end, another thing is I really like the effect of Tassie being scared. It's given within story rather than the Amnesia, you're just going crazy, woo! See? There it is. So that was Amnesia Rebirth. I've heard that some people don't find it that good, but to me that was pretty good. It doesn't have a variety of monsters at all, but what's here is good. The game looks nice and the story is effective. It's a lot more Soma than Amnesia, so if you expect Soma, buy this. If you don't, then give it a chance as well. GOG has a 30-day refund policy, so if you don't like it, then refund it. Link in the description. Like and subscribe and blah blah blah, just goodbye.